We are here with Rob Ziems, who is the president of Aruze Gaming America. And welcome, Rob. Thanks for taking the time today.
Oh, thank you, Frank. It's a pleasure. I'm honored to be considered.
Uh, Rob, this is the year 2020, and we can't talk this year without talking about COVID. Can you give us some sense about how Aruze is navigating COVID and what your outlook is for your company and for the industry near and midterm?
Yeah, certainly. It's like anybody, any of the businesses throughout the world, we were affected and had to take immediate action, basically looking in the crystal ball and trying to anticipate what this was going to mean. We put together some early predictions about what we thought the industry was going to look like. We were anticipating May, June reopening and got that pretty close. And as a result, we had to take some hard action like a lot of companies did, and we furloughed the majority of our workforce. We probably furloughed about 70%. We were able to quickly bring back some of our production folks. We're in Nevada, and there was some confusion originally when the governor put the shutdown mandates down as to whether manufacturers could continue to operate. And we learned within a week or so that we were considered sort of an essential business. Production manufacturers were. And so we never really shut down our production site, although it was slow. We had people there in order to meet customers' needs, and we kept our service folks intact in order to deal with customers that had any issues. So we cut expenses drastically, managed cash, anticipated what the market was going to do. And as things started to open up, we were able to bring folks back. I would say for the most part, most of us still work remotely. We probably have, I would say 70% of our workforce that was normally in the office still works remotely. That's been an adjustment, but I have to say I've been very impressed with, and I've read this with other companies, folks are quite resourceful and have, our productivity hasn't suffered at all. And in fact, one of the things I'm most proud of is we really took the opportunity as things slowed down, we looked at, well, what are the processes and procedures that we can improve upon? What things can we start to automate that we now do manually? How do we take this opportunity to make something positive out of it? And we've done that. We've really increased our efficiencies and trying to find some positive in this very negative time. Going forward, I think the industry has shown, particularly in the locals markets, that players want to play, and casinos are doing their best to provide safe environments. I know for us and a lot of our products, we're providing the partitions between our products to help with social distancing. And so I think the market's going to stay open. It's going to be different for quite some time, but it's going to stay open, and we're going to continue to see the players that want to play are going to show up at the casinos and continue to enjoy the entertainment that gambling has to offer.
One of the things that was speculated about not long ago was how long it might take for your casino customers to restore their budgets. And there probably is going to be some delay there, but you can maybe elaborate on that. But one thing I've been interested in hearing on the third quarter investor calls is the casino operators saying they intend to continue buying because they need updated floors. What have you heard from those?
That's what I'm hearing too. So Aruze's primary business, I've been here 10 years, and our primary business has been the sale of slot machines. We're not a big lease or recurring revenue manufacturer, although we do some, but largely we sell. There's been a drastic change, especially with casinos having to cut their capital expenditures, and so we've we now are offering customer financing that can help with casinos that still want to buy, but are trying to control their cash. And we have switched to more of a lease and recurring revenue model in order to meet that. But we're hearing the same things. It's, the purchase of our machines is down drastically compared to what it was in 2019. 2019 was a great year for us, and it's nowhere close on the purchasing side. But what we're hearing is casino. We're expecting to see Q1 to see that start to change. I don't think we're going to see it much in Q4, but we're expecting to see it in Q1 and going forward into 2021. I'd like to be wrong about this, but I don't think most of us are going to perform in 2021 the way that we did in 2019. But I think there's going to be a drastic improvement early, and then gradual through the rest of 2021. And I'm hoping that 2022, is more of a return to. I hesitate to say return to normal because I don't know that behavior is ever going to quite get back to the same. I think players are just going to have a different feel about them, with trying to be safe and conscious of cleanliness like we've never been before. But I think it'll be more of a return to normal in 22.
The Aruze's been around for a number of years in the United States, but you're still a relatively small player.
Yeah.
And because privately held, you don't get as much coverage as the publicly held companies. So for those people who might not be as familiar with the Aruze, give us a little overview.
Sure. So Aruze was actually formed in 1983. Our previous name was Universal Distributing of Nevada, and that's well before my time, but my understanding is that in the 80s, Aruze was actually a dominant player up there with IGT and Bally. Sometime, I think in the 90s, Aruze really sort of went dormant and stayed dormant for quite some time. And at that time, we were a subsidiary of what is now Universal Entertainment Corporation. Both Aruze and Universal Entertainment were founded and owned by our owner, as Mr. Okada. In 2010, he bought Aruze 100% from Universal Entertainment. And his vision at the time was to sort of revitalize this industry, this company in this industry. Universal Entertainment is a Japanese publicly traded company. They're one of the large pachinko pachislo manufacturers. But Mr. Okada's got a real passion for the what we call the Class 3 gaming industry. And so he bought Aruze and intended to get Aruze back into being a larger player in the industry. And when I got to the company in January of 2011, I think we had about 35 employees. We've got about 100 now. That's in the US. Globally, we're near 1,000. We have a large manufacturing facility in the Philippines. That's where we bend all the metal and make the boxes. And we've got a large R&D team, well, large for us, in Japan. So most of our R&D is done in Japan and the Philippines. The innovation primarily comes out of Japan. And we've been sort of a niche player. We make pretty unique products. Our video slots are unique in that we have sort of unique bonusing rounds, sometimes with sort of a story that goes along with the game. We've been innovative in the stepper industry for a number of years. In fact, one of our stepper products was called the Innovator, and it was copied by a number of folks after it came out. Really neat product. The reels were really bright and had different motors on them. They could go backwards and forwards and different speeds, and it was really a creative product. And then we've been a pioneer in the electronic table games business. We have a product called Shoot to Win Craps that's been out now about 10 years, maybe a little bit longer than 10 years. And that kind of revolutionized the electronic table game business. My previous company was also in ETGs, and I have some history there, and I know that was a really unique product. And now we've got a new one, which I am really excited to talk about, which is Roll to Win Craps. It was premiered G2E last year. Had our first install right before COVID, and have actually continued to see demand for that product increase. It's an electronic table game, although it looks like a craps table, but the field is video screens. People roll the dice. It's got the look and feel of a craps game, but there's no chips. It takes one person to run the table instead of a crew of three, and it's easy to put up dividers. So it wasn't intentional when we created it, but it really is fitting the market today, and so we're seeing a lot of demand for that.
Yeah. One of the things that's true about COVID in gaming and many other industries is it's not so much shut down business as it has shifted it. And
Right.
we see an acceleration of different kinds of technologies, the Zoom meetings, such as we're doing now. Are there any other products that you see emerging from Aruze, or games emerging from Aruze, that are maybe accelerated because of this change?
One of the things that I think we're going to be looking at, or we have looked at, and is something we'll focus on even more because of the way the industry is shifting, is the idea of some stadium play for our table games. And I think, that goes along the lines of no chips, distancing. So that's a place where I see us taking our electronic table games. As far as slots, we're not a system provider. I think, you've spoken to some others in the systems business, and where I see the industry heading is way more cashless and touchless. I don't, Tito was revolutionary, but what the other manufacturers are working on the system side is going to take it to a completely different level. And, it's minimal touch points is going to be critical.
One of the things that we've seen, and I look at the surveys that we do in conjunction with Eilers and Krejcik Gaming, and we see that Aruze, which had sort of dipped for a while, is starting, you're regaining some market share. To what do you attribute this success?
Our latest cabinet is called Muso, M-U-S-O. And I'm going to brag a little bit, but what I think in true Aruze fashion was very innovative. It has a sleek design, had wireless charging for cell phones, 3 high definition 27-inch screens. It's it's just got a very different look and feel than a typical box slot machine, and that had a really big impact on customer adoption. That it was different, but not so different that it was uncomfortable. In fact, I can say we've had some of the games that came out on our previous box, which was called the Cube X, which is just by the name very different. It was very cube-like, whereas this new design is really sleek. Games that went out on the Cube X that were also compatible on the Muso performed better on the Muso, and it reinforced an idea that I've had for a while, which is the box design matters. It's content, of course, is critical, and that's the most important piece, but attracting the customer to come look at the games is a big deal. And the Muso cabinet just was so aesthetically pleasing. We won awards for the design. Our R&D team just did such a great job with that product. I think that was a huge part of the change in our ship share and floor share, because it was unique and it stands out and customers recognize it right away. So that's what I attribute most of our success in 2019 toward. Now, and going forward, I think our role to win craps is going to have a huge impact on the industry, and we're going to continue to see our share grow.
This is that time of the year when companies display their newest and best products. You've mentioned 2 of them, the Roller Win Craps and the Muso cabinet. Are there any other products that you think people are absolute must-sees from Aruze?
Yes. So we have one game, it's called Paching Coin, and it's It sort of ties into our roots of being related to a pachinko company. It's basically a video display of a pachinko game, and I've played it quite a bit, and it's incredibly entertaining, and it's very different for a gamer in that you can really control the pace of the game. By hitting the button, you have a lot of control over how many balls come down, how much you're betting, how much your opportunity to win is. And so it's not like your typical reel spin where you press the button, you wait for it to stop, or you can press the button to stop it faster, but it's a completely different pace of play. Really unique slot machine idea because it's not reels. So it's got a different feel to it. I think that's a game that people might not look at initially because it doesn't look like a typical slot machine, but as a player, it's really engaging and entertaining. You may recall years ago, we came out with a game called Paradise Fishing, and then followed that up with an Amazon fishing game. And it's basically a bank of 4 or 6 games, big screens on top with this rod controller where it feels like you're actually fishing. And when a fish hits, there's tension, and it feels like you have some impact on the game. We have a new one called Hawaiian Fishing that builds on that. And I think that's a real interesting and exciting game to play. And then along those themes of the sort of communal gaming, which the fishing is, and I say communal hesitantly, you can have dividers in between the games, is called Mad Mountain, which also has an interactive feel to it that a lot of players seem to enjoy. That I think one of the things that was successful about our shoot to win craps is that there's this big red button that you hit and the dice bounce in the middle. And there's something about that physical interaction with the game that's more than just pressing a button and watching the outcome that I think has been an appeal of some of our games. And so
people love to slam that button.
We've had to replace plenty. But yeah, they love it. It feels like, there's some interaction with the game that people seem to really like.
Rob, it's been very, very informative. Anything else you'd like folks to know about Aruze?
Well, Frank, I think you did a good job. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about the history. And, what I think most people don't know is that we've been around over 35 years. Even though we're kind of a smaller niche player, we've got a lot of history in the industry, and our R&D team they're passionate about games. I mean, here's one thing. A lot of people don't know that the E in Aruze stands for entertainment. That's really what we're about, is providing entertaining games to our customers.
Well, that is a good way to conclude. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.